March 17th, 1995. 6 teenage boys go missing in Pickering, Ontario, Canada. The 6 boys were attending a St. Patrick's Day party that stretched into the early hours of the morning. More than 30 years later, no one knows the truth behind their disappearance, which has left 6 families in grief. Join me as we explore the mystery of the Lost Boys of Pickering. The city of Pickering is located in southern Ontario's Durham region, which is located just east of the city of Toronto in Ontario, Canada. The region is comprised of 8 municipalities, towns and cities, including Ajax, Brock, Clarington, Oshawa, Scugog, Uxbridge, Whitby, and, finally, Pickering, where our story takes place. The region covers 2,500 square kilometers and was established in 1974. At the end of 2023, the region was estimated to be home to 750,000 Canadians. At the time of this case, Pickering was not yet classified as a city, having only achieved that status in 2000. Pickering is best known for its casino, nuclear plant, and Frenchman's Bay, which will be central to this case. Of the boys involved, 3 were from the city of Pickering: 17-year-old Jay Boyle, 18-year-old Chad Smith, and 17-year-old Robbie Rumbold. The 3 remaining boys were from the surrounding areas. This included 17-year-old Jamie Lefebvre from Scarborough, 17-year-old Michael Cummins of Oshawa, and 17-year-old Danny Higgins of Ajax. The last known sighting of the boys was caught following the party at 2 a.m. on surveillance camera when 3 of the boys were found breaking into a marina on Frenchman's Bay in Pickering. It is suspected they stole a 14-foot Boston whaler, but this has always been speculation as it was based off of a gas can found washed up in Wilson, New York. Since the footage, there have been no sign of the boys, and virtually no clues to give investigators a path to follow. Amanda Boyle, Jay's sister, was the first to get an indicator that the boys had gone missing. Jay's girlfriend, who at the time had a baby with him, called Amanda to let her know he had not come home following the party. Initially, Amanda was not concerned. Jay had friends in Toronto and would often go to the city with little to no notice. 36 hours later, however, Durham Regional Police stepped in and begun a search of Lake Ontario. The search would officially be called off 36 hours after its start and had included thousands of volunteers in the air, land, and on the water. However, no dive was ever conducted. The police believe the boys stole a Boston whaler replica boat and a water tricycle before capsizing both in Lake Ontario and succumbing to hypothermia. Yet in the years following, no bodies, clothing, or water vessel has ever been found. A private investigator named Bruce Ricketts, who dedicated the end of his career up until his death to this case, never believed the boys stole the boat. The gas tank investigators found was only identified by a small dent and was found nearly 11 days later in New York, 120 kilometers east and across Lake Ontario. Additionally, a pair of pants that police initially suspected to belong to Jay Boyle were ruled out through DNA testing. The pants had been found at Sir Adam Beck Hydroelectric Generating Station all the way in Niagara River in Queenston in 1998. Ricketts noted 3 people, 2 females and 1 male, entering the marina service area a short time after the missing boys were seen on the tape. Ricketts explained the 3 new individuals walked across the lot when suddenly the male moved ahead, turned to face the females, and held out his arm as if he was pointing at something. The video is too low resolution to make out faces or what the male might have been holding. Ricketts said, "These three persons are potential witnesses to what happened that night at the marina, years ago, and could shed a crucial light on this case." He believed the continuity of evidence was poor and had been investigating the case pro bono until his death. Overall, Ricketts spent 13 years on the investigation, passing in 2024. The original police investigators are also no longer on the force, so it is unlikely any urgency remains. An employee from the marina stated the boat was in rough shape, but would still take a considerable amount of time to sink once in the water. Police had initially reached out to side-scan sonar to conduct a search for the boat, but the contract was terminated before a search can be conducted. The documents Ricketts was able to recover highlighted a number of sightings, one being at Q Beach in Toronto, which was close to Jamie's home a few days after the disappearance. Some say they saw Jamie at a Burger King in New York on March 19th. Another claims they saw Chad at his home on March 17th. However, all of these have not been proven. Amanda, Jay's sister, claimed they had both stolen boats in the past, hence why the police may have so easily suspected the theft. However, the families believe there was more to it that night. Particularly, that area of Pickering was a hot spot in the 90s for smuggling between Canada and the US. Ricketts floated this idea to police, but nothing was ever pursued. Before his death, Ricketts had complained to the Ontario Superior Court of Justice about Niagara Regional Police. The red pants, found in 1998 in Niagara, contained a couple bones, but it would take 16 years for the bones and pants to get sent for DNA testing. And when meeting with the coroner, Ricketts was told the pants, while red, could not have been the same brand, which were Levi's, as they had a waterproof coating, which Levi's did not. Jim Lay, a Niagara police inspector, also noted that the pants looked red, but appeared more orange once being explored during the autopsy. Lay also thinks it's highly unlikely a body lost in Lake Ontario would end up where it did in Niagara. As you can see here on the map, the place where the pants ended up would take nothing short of a miracle to land where they did. The pants would have to travel all the way across Lake Ontario, catching flows and getting not snagged on anything along the way, while perfectly making its way into there to be caught in the dam. Overall, this case would face 5 major criticisms. One was the length of time it took Durham Regional Police to start searching for the boys. At 36 hours, had the boys run into trouble on Lake Ontario, it would have been too late for a rescue from drowning or hypothermia. 2 was the fact that Bruce Ricketts had faced roadblocks at every turn, and all the information he requested through the Freedom of Information was heavily redacted. 3 would mean that only 3 of the boys, Jamie, Robbie, and Michael, were seen on film, with no footage of the boat being stolen. Why were there no efforts to investigate the others? 4 was DNA testing took too long, and the evidence was lost for a period of time prior to testing, so it's hard to confirm that continuity was consistent. 4 was the fact that DNA testing took far too long, and the evidence was actually lost for a period of time prior to the testing. And the final criticism was that potential witnesses were not pursued, whether it was sightings, the 3 individuals seen on camera that evening, or other witnesses at the party. In the end, this seems like a case that is very unlikely to see a conclusion anytime soon. But once again, I'll have to thank you for tuning in to listen to more Canadian mysteries, disappearances, and disasters.